Yeah. Juicy sweatsuits, doing lines in the restroom. All y'all dressed to impress who? 20-something trust issues,
and welcome
girl.
to another episode of Late Do You Remember This? And today I have just a delicious guest, Ryan Bailey.
What up, Ladue Nation? What up?
Yeah, Late Do Nation. Hello.
Did
Ryan,
you almost call it something with Joseph's at some point? Like I was like, did it come Ladue? And then like, remember Joseph's was the other big one at that whole period of time?
Okay, I spent a full-blown month trying to figure out the name of my podcast was going to be, and
it's crazy, right? When you try to, I asked everybody and their mother about the name of my podcast when I was doing it. Like it was like I tried harder than anything in school.
Because it's like a tattoo. It's
yes.
Getting a tattoo.
But yours is perfect. Like yours is perfect. But what were the ones that were on the cutting room floor?
It was such a long time ago, but one that was very close was Bimbo Summit.
By the way, I think you still could potentially use that. I don't think there's been a Bimbo Summit pod yet.
Well, and so the Bimbo Summit, of course, a reference to the article headline when Britney, Lindsay, and Paris all went out. So I thought about that, but ultimately I was ripping off the podcast You Must Remember This. So
yeah.
Yeah. And granted, it's a nightmare trying to tell people what the name of my podcast is.
You have to really go like inside baseball. Like that's Ladue is such a time and place and you know, it's such a good time and place for me, but like how many people have you had to explain deeply how important Ladue means to a certain period of time?
I have spent a lot of time trying to explain it to people, and it's kind of a litmus test. It's like if I say the name and people get it, then I'm like, okay, great. We're simpatico. But a lot of people, you really have to take the time. And it's also, find my podcast. And they're like, how do you spell?
What's a podcast? Wait,
What's a podcast? How do I spell this? Why is the name so long? So Bimbo Summit rolls off the tongue better. But, you know, here we are. I got my tramp stamp and I have to stick with it.
I mean, you know, the what I want, and I know we're talking about something else, but I did used to work. I was a nightclub manager during the time of the Britney, Paris, Lindsay. Like I used to let Lindsay in when she was underage. I was a part of, not a part like where you would actually see me in anything, but like I was alive and like working during these times. Like this all was like very, like that whole club like time was so crazy. And like up in my office, we would just like be refreshing Perez Hilton every day, like every night, you know, and it was just crazy. But like all those girls were always coming in. Lindsay, especially, we always had to sneak her in, but it was a wild time.
Were you still working at the time when it was, I can't remember the year off the top of my head, but it was when Lindsay had gotten caught underage a few times.
Yeah.
And then everybody, the city cracked down on everyone.
Yes, totally in that time. Well, and it was also like, because I just remember like time and place, like the OC was really big. Like Misha Barton and Brandon Davis used to come in and like have sex in our upstairs bathroom. But like Lindsay, yeah, totally. Like, and we like she had to be snuck in, like wear a hoodie, that kind of thing. And we had like a back door. Like if you went to the side, there was like this back door you could get in. And, you know, we would just like have backdoor things for people like that.
Wow. That is amazing. I mean, I didn't move to LA until 2013. So it was all over by then, the heyday. And I'm so sad and disappointed by it. But what can you do? What club did you work at?
It was called Monroe's. It was like a very, like, it was like think the official capacity was like 120. So it was supposed to be like this kind of just bottle service only, but like we would pack like 300. It was like insanity, but it was, DiCaprio was one of the investors. We had like a huge investor list. And then it became, right after us, that was like, we were open for like 3.5 years. And then it became a club called Villa, which was huge, with like all celebrities and stuff like that. But it was just really this kind of incredible. And I was so into pop culture. Like most bar people or club people don't give a huge shit, but I was like so into like TMZ, Perez, Delisted, Defamer. So I was like so excited any of this stuff when it was like coming, when you'd see it live.
Oh my God. You were truly in the trenches.
Yeah, it's like when people, I imagine what it's like when, my dad's went to Vietnam before. So it's like my version of Vietnam where I lived through it.
Absolutely. And, you're regaling us with history. This is...
you do see some it was just, I hate to like now as I get older, I'm like, you really do end up saying those things. Like, it was a crazy time. It was a crazy, like, I remember, Mark Wahlberg was dating like Anna Kournikova, I believe.
Oh my God.
And like Anna Kournikova wanted to like smoke inside, but we had like strict smoking laws and we were like a tiny club and it was like that. And then a lot of people wanted to smoke weed and we had this glass room and it was like, it's a see-through glass room. We can't just be like smoking weed where you smell it in the entire club and you just see plumes of smoke. Even if it's a private room, you're just like hotboxing something,
It was such a crazy time. Only because it can never and will never happen. Again.
And I know we talked about like, is that no movie, like I wonder if a movie could capture like the club scene of like really what it was. Cause I'm trying to think of like, cause then you had like clubs like Area. And I think there was a club called Jet or something. LAX.
Yes.
LAX. And like each one of those clubs had a very specific night. And like cause we had DJ AM when he was alive, he was like spinning at ours, but he would be at all these places too. And it was like, cause then you had, it all just like you had Nicole Richie always, it was just this huge little moment, this little pocket of pop culture that was crazy. And the club scene really, you're right, like hasn't been like that in LA ever since.
Yeah. I guess at the end of the day, it's just because there are cell phones with video now.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, you're totally right.
That's all. I think that's the biggest part. And because the celebrities, as far as I could tell from the stuff that I read, would avoid the gross pedestrians of the world by going to the certain club nights that were usually during the week.
Yeah.
Where most people have jobs. Not that most people in LA have jobs.
Not anymore, yeah.
not anymore, but like Mondays at the Roosevelt. I think it was Monday. Yeah.
And the lady that ran that used to be married to this director Ted Demme, but then she's actually a lesbian. Amanda Demme. Yeah, Amanda Demme. Yeah.
And she, okay, this is a random fact. She's now a photographer, and she photographed all the women who, this is like not a fun fact actually, but it's an interesting fact. All the women who were assaulted by Bill Cosby.
That is not a fun fact. Wow, that is definitely not the fun fact that you would present it. No, that was her?
That was her, that
wasn't
magazine.
That on the New York Times or like the New York? Yes.
Yeah, she did that. So she's a very well-respected photographer now.
Back in the day, so her husband passed away, and then she was in charge of that night at the Roosevelt when the Roosevelt was getting back on its feet again, and that was a huge thing. And they really went old school, where she'd come out and be like, you, and you, like the Studio 54 way. Mm-hmm. And it was like this really, I remember having to pull strings to get in, because like I'm not like, I don't think I've ever looked cool in my life, but she would always want to present a pastiche. And I remember she did a photo shoot in our nightclub one day, because we just had all these like kind of weird yellow leather couches, and I met her once, and she was interesting.
Allegedly, she had a little affair with Lindsay.
Yes, allegedly, I know that as well. Yes, that is allegedly very true. Yeah,
Allegedly, very, very true.
yes, that was allegedly. She actually really made her way around with a. She, I mean, I guess she was the older version of whatever Cara Delevingne is now. She made her way
Oh,
like around
yes.
some. Yeah. By the way, Cara Delevingne really like she really seems to be like she just is always with like beautiful ladies.
You gotta hand it to her.
You gotta hit. That's what I'm saying. Like, like she must like have the best, like spit the best game. Like, I wonder what it is. Like, is she like just like your eyes are on fire? You know, like what is it?
I think she's probably very intense. She makes you feel like you're the only woman in Los Angeles.
There was what that's the other like. Have you ever had any of these celebrity encounters where you like? I remember I worked at this before I did the club. I worked as a manager at a spa, like a fancy spa, and Anne Hathaway came in one time, and I could have sworn after she left that she was in love with me.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
like, and then it's you realize that's why they're stars. They make everybody believe that they're in love with them.
Yes, the best. I feel like there's two different types of celebrities, and there's the B to like G list celebrity who they can end up being assholes, and treat you like shit. But then you meet an A list, and you're like, oh, this is why. This is
yes, exactly. It's like so. It's rarefied air.
It's rarefied air, and they've done it for so long that they always know to say nice to see you instead of nice to meet you, because they know they could have met you before and you'd remember and they wouldn't.
No, I mean celebrities are wild. Like I had an experience once with James Gandolfini, and it's like even in like his normal life, you were just expecting like at any second he might like kiss you or try to like beat the shit out of you. You know, it's like you just never like you just like oh my god, like just those celebrities that like keep you guessing. You're like, oh my god, like anything can happen at this point. But that's why it's so weird. Like this period of time, you know, if you like think of Paris, Lindsay, and Brittany, like Paris. You could make a strong argument that Paris is the only one that got out truly alive.
Oh yeah. And her, I think she only got out barely alive because she completely compartmentalized every terrible thing in her life, or she's just less sensitive than the rest of them.
Oh my God. Are you excited for the YouTube documentary about her?
I cannot wait because I realized the whole like Utah like boarding school that she went.
That everybody had issues with it?
Well, so I had just been doing research on Paris years ago when I first started the podcast, and I just noticed that she had bounced around from all these different high schools, and one of them was in Utah. And I looked into it, and it's this wilderness camp where
by the way, that's always a bad sign when you hear wilderness camp. Like I've never heard any good stories with wilderness camp. Like there always seem to be horrible stories.
I mean, listen, I've seen Oprah, okay? The second I saw wilderness camp, I was like, uh-oh, we are in trouble. But you couldn't find anything about her talking about it because, you know, she's a part of the Richards sisters clan. They're all very secretive people.
I mean, very I need to know more about Paris's mom.
That woman, I think, is a scary mother effer.
It's gotta be. And the intersection between like, you know, like the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills of it all, and then also the Kris Jenner of it all, you know?
Yes.
Like, is that like, don't you think that her name's Kathy, right? It's Kathy?
Yes, Kathy.
So Kathy was the precursor to the Kris Jenner. Like, you know, if we had been in a different decade, Kathy would be much, much bigger right now, I think.
Well, so that is very interesting you say that. I always compare Paris and Kim in the sense of why was one, why is one now practically a billionaire and the other still does very, very well for herself? She's very rich, but she was not able to hold on to the relevancy as Kim was.
Yeah.
And I think at the end of the day, it's because Kim had Chris, who was invested. And I don't think Kathy is invested in Paris becoming something. I think it was all Paris by herself getting all of this done. Like, she didn't have the momager, because if Kathy was invested, she would have been on The Real Housewives. Kathy likes to put herself out there once in a while, like say a quick hello, but she does not want people knowing her business.
Yeah, I mean, that actually makes, and, because you really get the sense that Kim is scared of her.
Oh, absolutely. And Kyle, this is, I was on Instagram discussing the Paris.
Like that's where the real discussions really happen, by the way, guys. Instagram.
That's where the real Bimbo Summit meeting of the minds happens.
It's the Miss Parker and the Vicious Circle is just about Instagram, yeah.
But I was talking about Paris, and someone DM'd me, and we were talking very briefly about Kathy and Kim and Kyle. And of course, like after a couple White Claws, I like DM'd this person a novel about my opinions. And they were like, okay, double tap, moving on.
Yeah. Heart.
It's midnight, bitch. Go to sleep. But I said how I think Kyle is the one who is the most like emotionally sound of the three sisters. And I think she knows how traumatic their childhoods were, but she is so codependent with Kathy and Kathy, I mean, we've seen it on Beverly Hills. Like, Kyle is always in trouble with Kathy when she speaks too much about the family. And I think Kathy compartmentalizes everything that happened and wants to protect their mother, Big Kathy. Kim is just a hot mess.
Can we just call her Big Kath from
Big Kath? BK. Kim is just a hot mess, and she doesn't know her ass from her elbow as far as mental health goes. And then there's Kyle, who understands what's going on and wants to speak on it, but she does sometimes, but then she gets in trouble with the sisters.
Well, I mean, you watch Beverly Hills, right?
I do, even though they've been disappointing me.
Oh, yeah. But I'm saying in terms of like, there was a episode like 2 weeks ago where at the very end of the episode, they were in Italy and they're like, oh, let's all get along now. And they're like, where's the craziest place you've ever had sex? And Kyle literally said, Kyle goes, it was at a black tie event at the table with 10 other people there. And I'm like, wait, what? You had full intercourse at a black tie event with 10 people at your table? Like I need somebody to draw me a diagram how that even works first off. But then I was like, I'm telling you, that family, like, there is some weird shit going on. Remember the other story this season where Kim walked in on Kyle when she was losing her virginity? Yes. And then Kim told everybody at the dinner table, and afterwards, supposedly Kathy was like, how is it? How was it?
That was so traumatizing. I mean, it really was another thing I DM'd someone. I mentioned
I love the thought of you just randomly DMing strangers novels.
I know. But I was thinking with that story, that has to be the tip of the iceberg.
Yes.
That Kyle would share that. And, she does not share a lot of back in the day stories from her childhood. If that's what she's choosing to share, you cannot imagine what's going on.
Yeah, and that's why it's like the parent, like, so here's another like little bit inside thing is that I was working as an acting teacher for like a long time, and I just stopped that job like a couple months ago, and we had a system with like notes with everybody in it. And Paris used to take acting classes with us before like before A Simple Life even.
Oh,
And
wow.
we would take detailed notes on like everything that was said, everything, just all these personal notes. And she said in her intro class, explaining to like who she is and all that stuff. She said that that one day her dad was going to buy her a zoo. And I
Oh,
think that's
God.
the most like, that's such a Paris quote. And I was like, did she do it in her baby doll voice or did she do it in her regular woman voice,
Oh my God. I mean, I suppose since they were so close with Michael Jackson, it was just, and probably Hugh Hefner, it's like
Yeah,
people just
Rick
have
was like,
zoos.
sure, yeah, you'll get a zoo, sure.
That's a thing that
I
people
once
have.
spent like a good, I forgot, it was like, I think it was Snapchat when Snapchat like was really big. I like once spent like a whole afternoon like watching Paris's stories with her and her doghouse, like the amazing house, like
Yes.
doghouse. I was like, I like, that's like my goal house is that doghouse. Like that's my dream. Like that's the Selling Sunset house I want is Paris's doghouse,
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because I read yesterday that apparently that doghouse cost
Sold for
300.
3.2.
It cost $325,000 to build.
I don't doubt it. It looks amazing.
It's
Wouldn't that be
amazing.
amazing? That would be amazing. That's the next $1 million listing we need is like just a group of realtors that only sell dog houses. And they're like, oh, this is like a Frank Lloyd Wright doghouse. Like, and that would be amazing. Like these are accordion doors. Like, oh, I would love that.
I would love to live in any one of those doghouses.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like it's nicer than any place I've ever lived in my life.
Absolutely. And I'm very small. I'm short. I can fit. I mean, don't worry about
Walk
me.
the dogs too. The dogs can. I'm not even saying like the dogs can't stay. Like,
oh yeah,
the dogs can still stay. That's not even a thing.
Oh yeah. We'll have a nice little roommate sitch. No worries.
It's like, I swear to God, I shit you not. I bet there's a Wi-Fi signal in there. Like I bet Paris is like wacky enough where she's like, I've got Wi-Fi in here.
You want to know why I'm sure that's true? Because I'll bet that there is some sort of CCTV.
Yes, dog cams.
So at any moment when she's on the road in Dubai or wherever, she could check
totally.
in.
But by the way, that's like during quarantine, I'm like, I was like, people got to start getting more creative. Like they could have like, I would have paid for that CCTV feed too. Like she could have made money off that.
Yes,
People would watch
absolutely
anything.
would. I absolutely would watch those little idiots run around. So
are you about to go speaking of little idiots?
Speaking of little idiots, today we'll be talking about the seminal classique, the show Pretty Wild.
You said
Ryan,
it was seminal, yeah.
Seminal classic. Ryan, thank you so much for watching an entire series of television for this show.
No, I mean, I think that I mean, it's really a gift. I mean, I think that one of the, like that and NYC Prep and like shows like Gallery Girls, like they really.
Gallery Girls.
Like Pretty Wild, especially though, it's like we talk about time and place, and this show really does really pick up time and place, but it's also such a unique show because of what it captures. Like if they had like greenlit this show a year earlier, it would be a completely different show. The luck they had in filming this show at this time is insane for what the show actually, is about, or the underlying plot of the show.
So for anyone who somehow listens to this podcast but doesn't know what Pretty Wild is, basically quick gist is that one of the girls who was a part of the Bling Ring, a group of teenagers who were robbing celebrities, Lindsay Lohan, Orlando Bloom, etc., etc.
All the greats.
All the greats. They had a TV. Her name Alexis Nyers, of course. Had this TV show for one season on E.
9 episodes. Only 9 episodes.
9 episodes. One and done. And like you said, it somehow coincides with her and these other kids getting caught for bling ringing.
And also, it never gets called out, but there also like massive drug addiction happening where there are scenes where like they're completely messed up.
Okay, so let's just jump in with that because I was watching the season. So the whole thing is so
you
weirdly,
the season finale, and so it is.
And so it is the season finale. Everything is so oddly structured because the final episode, like, completely takes this other like the rest of the season feels very Kardashian-esque. It feels
that was what they were going for,
and it feels very fluffy except for the moments where they're talking about the trial, which is only about like half of the runtime of each episode.
Oh yeah, it's a subplot.
It's truly a subplot. But then all of a sudden, in the last episode, after making no mention that these girls have drug issues, they're having an intervention.
Yeah.
Which I thought was, if you didn't know the context, it's very confusing.
Yeah, because we know also more late, after the fact of like what they were doing at the time, how many pills they were doing, how they were stealing things to get money to like buy more pills and like, but it's wild that I always love shows like this where like there's like this whole underlying thing that they don't fully call out. So it's like kind of a fascinating watch because you're like, whoa, like look at, like, we know this hidden secret that they're trying to keep like surface, like everything's trying to be surface level and fun. And look at our sexy bodies and we're going to throw a party and I'm dating somebody from a band. And like, in the reality of that is, breaking into celebrities' homes, being like addicted to drugs. I mean, this is just like, that yin yang is amazing.
Well, and what's so interesting to me is, so I was just doing some additional research and I took a dip into Alexis's podcast.
Oh yeah, because
which is wild. And they did like a little reunion episode where she sat down with a family therapist to moderate. And then the other three main women of the show, which was Andrea, her mother, Tess, Gabby, her younger sister, her young biological sister.
Don't you feel bad for Gabby this whole show?
Gabby?
Like, Mom, Dad, what's going on?
Yeah, I feel bad for her. And yet I also think that she is just an absolute brat as well.
Yeah, but like imagine like what she's watching going down with her like older sister and her older sister's adopted friend, like that's crazy.
Yes. I mean, yeah, the amount of toxicity within the home, I wouldn't want to be a 16-year-old Gabby with these as my
and with cameras on you, like
yes.
I think the first episode of this is wild because like within like 10 minutes we like, or maybe I'm blending everything together, is like literally having the mom like take photos of their like naked bodies, like nice side boob, nice side boob. I'm like, what is going? And then we find out like Andrea, the mom, used to be a 1980s playmate too.
So that episode, I believe that was episode 8, and she was taking pictures of Tess, the quote unquote adopted sister that was not really adopted. They kind of overplay how long she's been living with them and like how a part of that family she is. From what I read, she was really only living with them for like 2 years, and they make it seem like she was there since she was a little girl.
Yeah.
But she was taking pictures of Tess for Playboy, but Tess ends up in Playboy.
Yeah, I mean, like that just shows you like dreams do come true, and like
they come true, baby.
Work hard for your goals. But it's just, and the fact that the mom also is a massage therapist too, which like also fits that whole, I mean, like, it's just like, these are very, you really get the sense of who these people are. You're like, oh yes, that checks out. Yes.
Well,
Yes.
Andrea is the mother. She is gosh, I wrote in my notes, lobotomy question mark. She just has these huge eyes that are always
Very expressive.
open, like it looks like she's in a Clockwork Orange and someone's just pulling back the lids at all times. Like,
Well, but also you're leaving out also, like, or we haven't got into it yet, is that this is a huge argument for homeschooling your kids.
okay, so yes, let's start with episode 1. We meet these people, and it opens with Andrea saying that she homeschools all 3 of her girls in the teachings of The Secret.
Which, by the way, was a pop culture phenomenon in around like 2008, which was like, I don't know if you guys all remember, but it was like a book, and then like they had like a shitty movie about it, but it was like just based on law of attraction, just stupid things of like, if you want something, just like really think about it and talk about it, and eventually it'll happen.
And yes, and so there's the 2006 book, The Secret.
Oh, that's what I mean. Yeah.
But then what I love is that she's apparently homeschooling her children based on these philosophies, but she only ever mentions the movie The Secret, which is and I'm like, girl, that's like 90 minutes. Like, how are you homeschooling these children 4 days a week off of 90 minutes?
Yeah, but then you actually see scenes with the kids and you're like, oh, I get it.
Yeah.
Like, like they're not, I mean, nobody's like, I mean, there's no scenes where they're like, mathletics or anything,
No. And so I also looked into, I was like, these girls are like 18 years old. What is she talking about? She's homeschooling them. Is this like in lieu of a college degree?
Yeah.
I find out, so Tess did go to real high school. Alexis was homeschooled by Andrea based on the teachings of The Secret. So if there are any like parents out there in the time of Corona homeschooling their children, this is an option.
Yeah, I mean, they all turned out cool, and yeah, I mean, prayer circles and stuff like that. It's all groovy.
I mean, it really worked out for them. Just consider it, truly.
But by the way, that's why, and so be it, or what is it? And so it
is.
And so it is. I mean, that I think is the definition of like amen for them.
Oh, definitely. And that does come from the movie, not the book.
Oh my God. Oh my God. That makes but see, to me, that's like such a perfect example of who these people are. Like, yes. It makes complete sense when you watch the show. You're like, and that's why I think that's like nobody needs to make movies anymore. Just like do reality shows and documentaries. I'm telling you, there's way more fascinating people in any of these shows than any movie you'll ever see.
It is just simply stranger than fiction. You could not write these people because an executive would read this and be like, this is so fucking stupid. There's no way anyone will relate to this. It's like, no, that you can only enjoy it if you know that it's real.
Well, I mean, and this is like, I'm so jaded now by watching so many reality shows, but like literally the cops show up to like interview Alexis the first episode, and it's like so crazy that you're like, is this a setup? Like, this is set up, right? This isn't real, right?
Yeah,
and it's real.
It's real. And okay, that's an interesting thing though about the show is you can see how there's one foot in the world of real reality, like maybe something more that you'd see on a Bravo show.
Yeah.
And then a foot in the reality of it all, where it's just like fluffy, Kardashian sort of manufactured storylines. And it like they'll have one moment of Alexis having an intervention, and then the next moment it's Tess like, I'm auditioning for
Let's go to Cabo.
We're going to Cabo.
Wait. What's oh my God. You know, I know, I'm sorry if I'm jumping around, but the most awkward scene of my whole life is them cooking dinner for the dudes.
Oh my God.
And like, I'm like, from what's the band called? It's like Rugburn or something.
Wicker.
Wicker. That's Wicker, which is the worst. I hate Wicker furniture so much. So the band is called Wicker. And then like two obviously older dudes, like I just, there's so many things wrong with it. And it's just so perfect. And there's so many, I'm sorry. Now I'm thinking of Ryan Cabrera. I'm thinking so many good things.
Well, so much of the series is them dating. And I feel like nearly every episode is a different guy. And I think it's either the first or second episode. I think it's the second episode. Ryan Cabrera shows up. He's about to go on a date with Tess. And that lasts for like literally 20 seconds. Like, Joe Simpson just put in a call and was like, can we get Ryan on this show? And he just walked through and walked out.
Well, there was a period of time where, Ryan Cabrera really made his way around reality shows because, you had him, of course, in the Ashley Simpson show. You had him in this show. I think I'm leaving out 2 or 3 shows, but he always seems to like just pop in out of, he was on The Hills, New Beginnings.
Yes.
But you're like, Ryan knows his way around a reality show. So to see him pop up there with his amazing coif of hair is just so special for a show like this.
It's really special, and I wish he had more time in his schedule to do more than that 20-second spot on episode 2.
Wouldn't you go to see a concert just of Ryan Cabrera's reality show appearances, where he's like, "Here's me fake bowling like I did in Pretty Wild," and then the encore.
I would love to go to a socially distant concert of just like, I'll just stand in a little bubble and just watch him act that out.
I once I went to see, this is embarrassing for so many reasons, but I went to see a Counting Crow show by myself. And
I love that.
I all of a sudden Ryan Cabrera and Audrina Partridge walked past me, and I was like, whoa, the stars are out. And I just literally stood next to them for the entire concert. And of course, Ryan Cabrera was in one of those really big hats that all Mumford and Sons guys wear.
Oh God,
and
yes.
I was just like, Audrina, I literally at one point I was like, Audrina, you can do better than this. It was I was fascinated.
I mean, did you ever watch? It was always on after Saturday Night Live. It was on for many years. I believe it was called Wild On. And they
yes.
They went through all these different seasons of different hosts, and for a large chunk,
Tara Reid hosted it at one point.
Yes, she did. She was one of the early hosts, and then Audrina hosted for a few years, and she was honestly really good.
I don't mind Audrina Partridge at all. The only, did you watch Hill's New Beginnings?
I did, and I thought it fucking sucked.
It did suck, but I believe it was oh no. Which girl was it that had the miscarriage, and all of a sudden they put a Crest White Strips ad in the middle of the scene? She had just spoken about her oh no, it was Whitney Port.
It was Whitney.
It was
yes.
Whitney Port was talking about her miscarriage, which was this really kind of sad and out of place scene. And then all of a sudden I remember there was I was doing work, and I was like, why is there silence? And I look up, and she's all of a sudden in the bathroom putting Crest White Strips in. And I was like, this is insane. This is insane.
And they did the same sort of thing with Audrina, where all of a sudden she was just spending 20 minutes putting on a CoverGirl eyeshadow. And I was like, how did I suddenly end up in a commercial?
I mean, but that's a very new thing, I think, the intense product placement.
Yes.
You think about on a show like Pretty Wild, how would they have ever product placed in Pretty Wild? What would because it was already so bizarre and weird that I think who's the oh my God! I'm the what's his name? The DJ from the birthday party, Paul Oakenfold.
Yes, Yes. Oh my God.
There's so many crazy cameos that you're like, what is going, like, it really is insane.
There's also a cameo by football player Vernon Davis.
Yes. These girls, I mean, and I'm definitely sex positive or whatever, but like they dated a lot. Like every guy was hot to them.
So what I found so interesting was how it really was just like every episode, a new guy to date. And they were all just so much older than them. And all I could think of was, I am so scared for these 18-year-old girls.
Yes.
Like, I don't know how they're alive, especially knowing that they were on heroin.
Well, and also like, I mean, I don't think the movie The Secret covers anything about like dating abuse, you know, like, I mean, these girls, like, I grew up like not in a strict household, but like a pretty strict household. Like I felt bad, like ever sneaking out of my parents' house, and these guys are like able to date like football players and stuff. Like it just, and by the way, the mom seemed like she loved him dearly. Like it didn't seem like she was like a helicopter parent, but something was going on.
I think that was okay. So the thing about the show that goes along with that is she does seem like someone who loves her kids. But it also just, and we know this, that there's so much under the surface that they're not showing. And it's one of the reasons why Bravo is my top reality show network, because like MTV, they really like go out of their way to not show anything that's real or actually interesting and dramatic, I feel like, at most times. Like, these girls admitted that they were shooting up heroin during the filming of this, and
I'm so sorry I laughed. I didn't laugh. I'm so sorry. That's how jaded I am that I'm like,
But we don't even hear any whisper of drug abuse until the last episode, where Andrea's running around like, you're addicted to drugs. And you're like, wait, what? Is she? And it's like, yes, she is, but we just never even saw that they were.
That's what I'm saying. It's this really weird underlying thing that you don't fully see, but then if you go back and watch, it makes it even darker. Like it makes it like, it gives this like, whoa, because you can watch it in a certain way and be like, kind of like most people watch, where you're like, oh, these are like just idiotic Valley girls and da-da-da. And then if you watch it now, just knowing all that we know, it like adds so many different layers. You know, it's just, you're like, whoa, this is an insanely dark show. But you even have lines in like the episode where it's like, I'm so stressed. Can I have a 5 milligram Adderall, please? Like asking permission to take Adderall and just being passed out like Pez.
That is, to me, one of the examples of Andrea being probably a truly terrible parent. Not because the kids were taking Adderall, but it was so strange how these girls who are 18, 19 years old are like coming downstairs and getting passed out Adderall. Like this is One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and we're in a mental institution, and you line up for your, like 18-year-old girls, I feel like, should be able to, you know, if they're prescribed Adderall, you know, come downstairs, open the medicine cabinet, take one on your own.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Why are you getting homeschooled by this crazy woman?
I mean, there's just so many things, and but see, that's why I was also saying, like, I know you think Gabby's a brat, but like that's why it's even so much more disturbing than to watch Gabby through all this, because she's not even the focus of anything. She's literally like shit on most of the time, and she's just like, "What's going on?" And she's just like, she is whiny, but you're like, could you imagine how scary that is for her to like watch her older? Yeah, I mean, it's just, I don't know. For some reason, I have like weird sympathy for Gabby.
I definitely have. I do have sympathy for Gabby. I think towards the end, she sort of started to grate on me, and I loosened up with the sympathy.
Why don't you support other women? I guess that's the bigger question.
Honestly, I'm like a Ramona Singer, where I say I support other women, but I don't really support other.
That's actually that's another podcast, but yeah.
I feel like I was looking into where they all are now, and Alexis is sober and everyone seems to be better off than they were, but from what I'm glad they're sober. I'm glad they're all doing better, and they all have kids and whatever, stable relationships. Like, Alexis still seems like a fucking asshole. Like,
yeah.
I do think Andrea, and it's not Andrea's fault, this is a generational trauma of passed down from woman to woman to woman that has truly just ruined a bloodline of women.
Ruined a bloodline. Well, what's not, but do you ever think about that too? Is that like Alexis still really doesn't admit what happened?
I think Alexis is a full-blown narcissist. Like, not in the cute sense of like, oh, you're so narcissistic. Like, I think she has a personality disorder, personally.
Yeah. No,
I
can see that.
She doesn't own up to it. I was listening to her podcast, and she was like, she really thinks of herself as sort of like a guru type person. Like, she's an odd one. And I'll say this, to me, Tess was the star, not Alexis.
Wow. But yet Alexis has really made more of a name for herself.
Yes. And I think part of that has to do with just the fact that she got caught in the bling ring. But I think it's Tess that has the personality, the talent, the looks. I mean, come on.
Isn't it weird though that they kind of look like, if you didn't say, if we didn't know she was adopted, you would kind of think that they might be sisters.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, it fit completely. Like, it does. Like, I when I did the rewatch, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. I always, like, in my head, just think of them as sisters.
They absolutely look like sisters. The only thing they don't share is Tess's natural breast, which truly
Wait, say that again.
Natural breast.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I'm glad you used the thespian way of saying it. Yeah.
Of course. But yeah, I don't know. Tess just she seemed to have a brain in that noggin somewhere in there. Whereas Alexis, I mean, really a stone cold idiot.
So a stone cold idiot, not just in like reading and writing and math and all that stuff, but like a stone cold idiot in how she went through this world.
Yes.
Like, it was like, that's another thing, is that just the dealings with people, or even like, the monologue on the phone to the writer,
Nancy
like
Joe.
Nancy Joe. I mean, like, the way she goes about life of like, of what she chooses to be upset about, what she's like, you got the heels wrong, like, those are the things that actually are offensible to her, instead of like actual real things that are happening.
Well, and it's the same with her mom too. I mean, that's just a real codependent relationship. But in the episode that we touched on earlier, where they go to Cabo, the episode starts where the lawyer, Alexis's lawyer, is like, please do not leave the country. Meanwhile, I read separately that, he just says, like, I really don't think you should leave the country. Actually, she wasn't supposed to leave the state. It wasn't just like, it's advisable to not go partying. She wasn't supposed to leave the state. But she just like lived in this world where
it's like
she was
magical thinking. Like, I
magical
remember I got
thinking.
like my first credit card, I think I got in college, and it was like a Sears card. Like, it was like and I bought like a stereo with it. And then I knew I had to pay it, but I just chose not to. And I chose not to for like a solid 2 years, I think, and for some reason I just convinced myself that I don't have to pay it, even though every month I knew I had to pay it. And like, that's the only thing that I could be like, she lives in that kind of other world of like, this doesn't exist.
Yeah, it really is true because, and I think a lot of it has to do with her mother.
And my credit's completely fixed now, by the way. I just want to point that. I just wanted for any listeners.
That would be very upsetting if your Sears card is still haunting your credit score.
What if you just heard like a jailbreak in, like, you'll have to insert another quarter for 5 more minutes?
God, I miss store credit cards. I mean, I'm sure they still exist, but
I had an Express credit card. Like, how idiotic is that? Like,
honey, I had an Old Navy credit card, J. Crew. I had Gap. I had it all.
Do you remember? Like, I think it was Structure first, then it turned into Express.
Yes. Oh my God. I also remember the crossover in Express when they started tagging their clothes inside and outside, because I used to buy
a shoplifter?
I was not. I've never shoplifted actually. But I'm very pro shoplifting if you want to do it,
I'm very pro. I'm not one of those fuddy duddies that isn't that's against shoplifting.
I'm pro shoplifting, anti-capitalism, okay? But I used to like buy a dress for a night out, and they used to keep the tags on the inside of the dress, and you could just tuck it in or return it. And it was a tough day when I realized they caught wise and suddenly the tags were on the outside.
Oh my! I mean, by the way, I was always scared to ever do that, like to do what you did. And then finally last year, I was like doing a reel for like my hosting thing, like live action hosting. And my teacher was like, "Yeah, just go to Macy's, get a couple sports jackets, and then return them." And they said it'll be no problem. And then I went to return it. It was a huge problem. They were like, "What?" They asked me like 50 questions. They were like, "This is a little wrinkly. Did you wear this?" Like I was like, all of a sudden, like under like complete duress, like they're asking me 100 questions, like I'm a criminal. And I was like, I can't afford $500 to buy these suit jackets, And they finally took it, but like, I was like sweating.
The thing is you have to find the right person to return it to, who's like, I'm not getting paid enough to ask you any questions.
Oh my God. That's so true. Like it was like at Macy's at the Beverly Center, and it must have looked insane because I was like literally just like, who's that big guy that just like walking back and forth in the Macy's room, like trying to pick out, because there was only like 2 dudes, and I was like trying to decide which one would be nicer to me.
See, what you have to take into consideration is in a big store like Macy's, you don't got to return that in the department that you bought it.
Oh, really?
No, you can move around. So you can just go to another department nearby.
The Clinique counter?
No, that's very separate. Makeup to clothes, very separate.
Wow.
But I would, if I were you, I would have traveled over to the kids section and said, "Oh, I'm so sorry to bother you, but the line is just around the block in men's."
And I was so not ready to like answer any questions about it, so I was just like, it's my boss's husband. I don't know. I'm the assistant. I don't know. I just kept saying, I don't know. It was like, I need this money. And they're like, why is it on your card? Well, cause that's how we work. That's like, that's how we do it in the assistant world. I was like, I just so crazy.
I'd love to know how often Alexis and Tess were buying and returning. I feel like
they were flat out stealing.
They were
flat out stealing. There's no way, because by the way, she was stealing from those houses. She did not. Her excuse for the bling ring stuff was that she had like passed out on OxyContin and was like she wasn't a part of actually stealing anything, and she still I believe holds true to that day, and that's just not true.
It's simply not true. And she also, in one of the first, I think it's the first or second episode, Alexis says, "Oh, should I wear my Louboutins?"
Yes, which somebody else's Louboutins, right?
And the thing that people need to take into account is that I think during that time, I think people were under the impression that the Bling Ring kids were rich Calabasas kids. They weren't rich kids. And once you watch the show, you look at Alexis and you're like, yeah, you weren't rich. Like, you had something going on, but like, you're not affording Louboutins. Those were stolen.
No, 100%.
Hundo P stolen. But like, God bless. I mean, sure. One of her many gentlemen callers could have purchased her a pair of Louboutins, but I mean, and that is actually a sticking point to this day between Alexis and Nancy Jo, is that she never had these Louboutins, and Nancy was like, I know that you stole those Louboutins and that you had them, but Alexis still won't cop to it.
Wow. Well, yeah, I was reading this quote about one of the producers of the show was saying, they were talking about the drug use on the show, and it was like, I won't name names, but one of the people who had been in some trouble got a scheduled visit from their parole officer, and the parole officer found them doing drugs. I think they were literally smoking Oxycontin. E became aware, and they were unhappy about it. So that was part of the reason we didn't get picked up for a season 2, probably 49%. 51% of why we didn't get a season 2 was that Chelsea Handler thought this was going to be a comedy. So when it became a very dark drama, Chelsea was no longer excited about the show anymore.
Wow. Oh my God.
Isn't that crazy? Like smoking Oxycontin. And by the way, you can see that in some of those scenes, like that scene with the two girls when they are prepping for the date with the two guys.
Yes.
From Rugburn or Wicker. Yeah, Wicker. Is that like, they're like, we could do this at the steaks. How do you cook a steak? You know, it's like very, very pilled out talking kind of.
Oh, absolutely. Well, what's so interesting, though, is so in the Alexis podcast reunion with the other women, I mean, she really takes no responsibility, and she says that so much of the drama was pushed on them by E. And I don't know how she could honestly believe that when they were literally smoking oxy, shooting heroin, and the most you ever hear about it is in the final episode where they're just like, she's doing too much Xanax.
Well, yeah. Well, so Alexis at the time says she was like actively using every substance imaginable, but Oxycontin, heroin, marijuana, and alcohol were daily habits. Like, how does somebody not? I mean, like, it's just wild. Like, the only I mean, I've done drugs, but usually I'm not combining drugs. I'm never like, you know, I think once I was at a music festival and maybe did Molly and mushrooms at the same time. And that was like, holy crap, you know, like, but also I wasn't filming a reality show and that ended after that weekend, you know? I
mean, listen, at the end of the day, when you start mixing.
Wait, you're not a cop, you're not a cop, are you?
I am not a cop.
Okay, you'd have to tell me if you're a cop.
Hashtag defund the police, okay? No. There are no cops on this podcast, okay? But I would just like to say to everyone out there, it's when you start mixing and lixing is when things get dicey.
Wow, this is cool because it is like and my podcast isn't like this, but this shit feels like more like a family podcast where you actually do learn things.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. This is an educational show.
Yeah, kids, come on in here. She said not to mix things, so let's just throwing that out there.
Don't mix. Although I do remember Dr. Drew saying on Celebrity Rehab,
Oh my God, I used to love, I mean, I feel
Me too.
bad. I feel bad for even saying it now, but I used to love that show. I feel horrible now. But
We should be arrested for watching that show. It's
I look
so
forward to it every week so much. Like, I watched every season of that thing. I laughed with it. I was like, ah, ha, ha, ha. And it's so idiotic now to think about that. I'm like, how did this show even make it to air?
how did it make it to air? It is so outrageously problematic. But I do remember Dr. Drew saying, and this was like years ago, before the heroin epidemic really, took hold.
Yeah.
And when people were getting dosed with fentanyl, but he always said, it's when you start mixing the pills that you get into real trouble, and that's how you accidentally overdose. Because all of the rockers from the 60s and 70s, they were doing heroin, but
that's it.
But once you start mixing and lixing, that's when shit gets real.
And that always stuck with you. I just love that. I watched that show so much that I remember like one season somebody was like, just freaking out and yelling and all that. And Dr. True had to come in to off hours. And I was like, of course, he's kicking pretty hard. Like, there's nobody in their 20s that should be like, that doesn't do hard drugs. Like, and I'm sitting there like diagnosing somebody. I'm like, oh yeah, he's kicking. That's going to last another 24 to 48 hours. Like, cause you watch so much Celebrity Rehab.
Okay. Speaking of after hours, I loved when Dr. Drew would come in after hours, because like during hours, he'd be like in his professional look. And then
you remember he was like ripped too. He had guns. It was like, damn, Dr. Drew.
He would come in after hours in his like casual t-shirt, his black t-shirt. And I remember one episode, rest in peace, but
the Alice in Chains guy?
No.
Jeff Conway?
Jeff Conway. He was like out of his mind, which was why Dr. Drew had to come in after hours.
Yeah. And
Dr. Drew sat down like very seriously, and he's like, Jeff, come on, what's going on here? And Jeff looks at him and he goes, oh, look at you with that shirt. I like that shirt. And Dr. Drew has to look down and just like stifle a laugh. How do you not giggle at that? But
no,
course,
I mean, I would make, I was so, God, I just desensitized is the only word that it keeps coming to mind about my whole life. But like, I would sit there and be like, oh, the Alice in Chains drummer would like just go up to who is that actor, that guy that's like been in and out of, he used to date Heidi Fleiss. What's his name? He wasn't Saving Ryan. Oh, Tom Sizemore.
Yes,
Tom Sizemore was in there, and Tom Sizemore would pick on the Alice in Chains drummer, but the Alice in Chains drummer would always be, he's like, hey, do you know my friend Lane? And he was always talking about Lane, the lead singer of Alice in Chains, who died, He's like, hey, I was really good friends with Lane. Like, he would just walk up to strangers and be like, hey, I was in Alice in Chains. Do you know Lane? Like, and it was just, and then Tom Sizemore started picking on it, and I was like, that was wild when, like, you'd have an addict picking on another addict in Rehab.
It was such a great show, but we were talking off mic about being Bobby Brown.
Yeah.
And it's the same exact thing where you think about it or watch it in hindsight and you go, oh no.
Like, what was I watching? Like, I shouldn't have done this. Like,
truly horrific.
Well, because you're not putting I think there's something in your mind that even though you're seeing it like point blank, there's something in your mind going, well, they wouldn't put somebody that's on crack on TV. Like, in your mind, you're going like, well, there's obviously TV laws and they must not, like, that's in your mind. That's what you're thinking. So you're like, I remember watching every episode of Being Bobby Brown the night it aired, like the night. Like, yes. I was like TiVo the shit out of that show. And I remember watching it and being like, oh, they're so crazy. Not really, like, in my mind, I knew she was doing, like, always the rumors that her and Bobby were doing drugs, but I never, like, even though I knew it, I don't think there was a part of my mind that accepted it. So it still came off like some kind of broad comedy.
I wonder if the difference is the reason why we can look back on it now. One of the reasons is at that point, we had not yet seen not just the death of Whitney, but the death of Amy Winehouse. Like, we were a little naive, where it was just like, oh, this is wacky. But then shit got real, and now everyone is a little more, shall we say, woke to the exploitation involved.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wah, wah. Listen, we keep it real here.
By the way, wouldn't that be a great show of like, just like a retrospective history show, like on TV of like the shows that we now regret liking at some point? You know, like, oh my God, the shows I feel horrible about supporting. Like, also I might throw like Hoarders in there, maybe.
Hoarders, oh my God, yes.
Like, I remember like when I'd be like, well, this place isn't messy enough. Like when you would judge, like, I only saw 2 cat carcasses in here. Like, you know, like when you like get like after 4 seasons of Hoarders, you're like, I need this to ramp up now when you're seeing like actually sick people, you know?
Absolutely. And I mean, I've always been into the deepest, darkest reality shows, Intervention, Hoarders.
Oh yeah, all that. Like I had my favorite interventionist, like who, like Jeff. Remember, like it was
yes.
Like, you know, like when you're having your favorite interventionist, like there's an issue with your life and how you like are living it.
Okay, can I just say, you sound like if you have a favorite interventionist, then do you have a favorite intervention? Because mine
is 100%. I mean, I can already, I don't know if we're going to have the same one. I don't know if we should say it at the same time.
Okay, well, actually, I would say this is not my favorite.
So sad that I didn't even have to think.
Okay, wait, I have 2. I have a favorite intervention, and I have one intervention where I'm like, they should have just let her live.
Oh, jeez. Well, okay, what's your favorite?
Okay, my favorite is the girl who
Walking on Sunshine? Yep, that's it. I'm walking on sunshine. That when she huffed computer cleaner.
Yes.
That's it. That's the one that was my favorite too. Like that literally is my favorite. I'm walking on sunshine. And she like that was great. You know, she's a drug counselor now.
I did not know that, but I feel like I could only say that was my favorite because I knew from what I could tell that she was doing well now.
Do you remember the girl that ate all of her sorority's food and she had like an eating disorder and she would throw up in like Ziploc bags and hide them under her bed?
Okay, yes, I do remember that.
That was that's in the top 10. Like, yeah.
So the only intervention where I was like, leave this poor woman alone. She was in her mid to late 70s. I think late 70s. And she was doing, I believe she was doing like crack or something. But she was so good-natured, and they had this whole physical comedy scene of her like falling on and off this like a stump. She was like in the woods somewhere, and she was like, oops, I took a tumble. And it was the only intervention episode where I saw a person who's just enjoying themselves.
You're like, wait, that's just somebody relaxing. Like there's a difference.
Listen, at a certain point at the end of your life, spend it how you want to. Because she also only got into drugs very, very, very late in life. Like she had only been doing drugs. She was in her late 70s and she had only been doing drugs for like a few years. And to that I say like,
yeah, I was always like,
smoke him if you got him.
Like I would always, and then you'd like rudely judge people's letters. you know, like when they read them at the end in the intervention of like, I'm asking you today to get help. And like, so some people I'd be like, that dude tanked it, man. That you could have done way better. I would still do drugs if I got that letter. That's crazy.
You really have to put in the time to craft.
Yeah, like they're like, you could like throw like a poem in there. You could throw like not like you could be like in the immortal words of like you could really craft something out of there. And some people are just like, I really love you and I want you to get help today.
Listen.
See, by the way, the way I'm even going off on this shows just how insensitive. Like, I gotta stop. This is horrible.
I know. I am like, listen. Should I maybe like edit all of this out? Maybe.
No, God, no. No, by the way, I have a feeling, this is what's so sad, is that I have a feeling the majority of people will know exactly what we're talking about. And this is exactly like Pretty Wild. It's exactly like NYC Prep. Intervention is in that same period of time for these shows where we all like kind of just like, well, this is weird. This is unique. And it became like a habit. The only difference between shows like Intervention and Celebrity Rehab is they had multiple seasons. Like nobody caught on that this was bad for like years. In fact, I think I could be wrong, but like, is Intervention or Hoarder still on? I think one of them is.
I think Intervention is actually still on. It was off the air for a little while and then it came back and I think it's still on. But I will say the one thing about Intervention that I will give them credit for is that they do offer free treatment, which, I mean, I guess that's still so exploitive to offer treatment to people who can't afford it in exchange for exposing the worst moments of their life.
Well, oh my God, were you like, I would always like that last 2 minutes of Intervention was like it was like guessing like the correct home that the couple would get on House Hunters. Yes. You'd be like, okay, this dude's going to make it. This dude's going to make it. This dude's going to, oh no, he left 8 days later and he went on crack again. Like it would always, or like, you know, sometimes they would make it and you'd be like, whoa, I did not see that coming. Good for them. That's amazing. But you would literally like bet on those things. Like, no way. There's no way they're not still on drugs, you know?
Absolutely. And I mean, I would say once a year, I think of an old Intervention and I'm like, I hope they're doing okay. And I just like fall down a rabbit hole trying to find them.
Oh, totally. Well, you know what? Like if I talk to the Walking on Sunshine girl, like I actually have looked her up and stuff like that. And there's I would be more nervous to talk to her than I would other actually like reality stars and stuff like that I've talked to on my podcast, because like she really, like, I think about her once a week at least. Like since I've seen, like, I mean, there's multiple times I would actually be nervous. Like I was like talking to a star.
Okay, I have a question for you. This is totally off topic, but you've made me think of it because I'm always thinking about who I'd be the most nervous to talk to. I would never be nervous to talk to like an A-list celebrity.
Yeah.
But one of my people is Iyanla Van Zant. Do you watch her show?
No, that's the that's the Fix My Life girl.
Yes, Iyanla Fix My Life.
Yeah, I've been sent clips and stuff like that, but I've never watched the show.
You should really watch it because it does have like a very gritty intervention adjacent subject matter, but there's also a lot of prop comedy.
Yeah.
Like Iyanla always has like a very strange like little exercise to do in her back pocket where there's just always props, costumes, and she's just very wise. I think you would enjoy it.
No, by the way, also, that's not saying a lot. I literally would enjoy anything if it's a reality show. There's been very few reality shows where I'm like, well, this is shit. Like, I will usually watch it. Well, actually, there was a show that I started. It was the contest of who's going to get the girl pregnant that aired during quarantine.
Oh my God.
And I pretty much knew. I was like, come on, this is bullshit. I was like, for some reason, like I thought the first episode was amazing. And then the second episode really let me down. And I was like, okay, they're rushing through some of these moments. They need to slow down and really let me get to know these guys and let the lady get to know these guys if we want to take it seriously. Like it was like felt rushed. And then I that's when I get picky, you know?
It's so funny that you mentioned that because I honestly thought that show was a fever dream to me.
No, it really happened.
Because it was just like one of those days where they all blend together and half in the bag on a skinny girl margarita. And I started watching it and I was like, it was the episode where all of the guys get their fertility tested.
Yes. Yeah, totally. Yep. To see who had the best motility, to see who had the best sperm count. Like, it was a big thing. And then guys were like, yeah, check that out, brother. Like in your face, check out that motility. It was like crazy. I was like, this is so insane. And also the girl, like, guys are just literally like, yeah, I'll get you pregnant. Like, they don't even know the girl. Like, there was like,
it was so bizarre that I don't know how it happened that this show was possible, and also that they got such a true American princess to host it.
Yeah. Yes, that was another thing where you're like, how did Kristen Davis, that's her name, right?
Yes.
Like, how did the Sex and the City? I had that like, oh wow, they got like someone who kind of like used like big, but then when the second episode, when I started hating the show, I was like, oh, it's so sad for her, man. Like, she needs it this bad. She needs money this bad. Like, I was like, I then got sad for her all of a sudden.
That's what really, I was very sad about it because I just feel like she is this beautiful actress who is on a show that is an American institution.
Yeah.
She looks incredible. She's not the all-time actress in the world, but she is a fucking pro.
Yeah, the one thing she does amazingly well. Like, the thing that what she's known for, she does amazingly well. And that's all you need as an actor, by the way.
Exactly. And to me, I was just like, it feels insane that this woman is not raking in like CBS sitcom money as the hot wife to some fat asshole, you know? Like, why is she not pulling in sitcom money for a King of Queens type program?
Yeah, no, I mean, I completely, she dated Alec Baldwin at one point.
No.
Yeah, like after Sex and the City, like they aired I think a couple months playing, but I remember like it was just like, oh wow.
You hate to hear that. You
don't want anybody to go through that. But I also hated how she they had to do the thin connective tissue of why Kristen Davis was hosting this show. She'll be like, if you remember, my character really wanted a baby. Like, like it was like, oh man, like you just wonder, like, oh my God, whoever they got to host, they would have to like do some thin connective tissue of like, I bet you're wondering why I'm here. Well, my best friend just had a baby and that makes me the host,
Also, it makes me so sad that Sex and the City 3 never happened. That like,
oh, did you ever listen to my friend Laura's podcast, Saving Sex and the City 3?
No.
Oh, she's the host of Sexy Unique podcast, and she does a podcast only like here and there, but it's literally like the guest and her will come up with the plot for Sex and the City 3.
Okay, that is.
Yeah,
I mean, no offense to you. I love your podcast, but that is my favorite podcast. I don't even need to hear it.
Oh my God, it's so good. Like I was on an episode and I did it where the girls like Big dies and Carrie then goes to LA and the girls all come to LA and Vanderpump Rules is a part of it because Samantha is taking over the bar Motherlode, which is next to Pump. And she becomes competitive with Lisa Vanderpump. And then she ends up like pegging Jax at the end. Like, it's crazy, but you should check the podcast out. It's pretty good.
Wow. That is gorgeous. That sounds like the best version of like an improv class game. Like,
yeah. Oh my God. I was so nervous to do that one because it was just, I was so scared. And then like she's so good. Like it's just like it was so fun. Like I don't know. I love stuff like that.
Well, hopefully one of those episodes goes from her lips to God/Sarah Jessica Parker's ears, and we save Sex and the City 3.
I mean, wouldn't it be great if they like co-opt Golden Girls at some point, you know?
Ooh. Oh, that's another quarantine hit for me.
Wait, was that big for you during quarantine?
I mean, listen, in my life, I'm still pretty much in quarantine. I don't see anyone.
Oh, I know. Like it is weird to hear when other people aren't, you know, like I do 2 things a day, you know?
Oh, I have watched so many. I mean, listen, we were able to watch an entire series from front to back in 2 days?
Yeah. Well, and it was, and by the way, and like without even, it wasn't even like, that's what I'm bragging now. It wasn't even hard, man. Like I'm so used to you're so used to like just powering through things during quarantine that it's not even a thing. You were like, are you sure? I was like, oh yeah, no problem. Like I'll just have it on in the back. It's, you know how easy it is to watch TV, but like, especially during this time, it's like, this is what all the training was for, I think, was quarantine.
Exactly. Especially with these 22-minute episodes. That
It's like nothing. Like these are like paper, you know?
It's really just like watching like an Instagram story. It's in, it's out, one ear out the other.
Do you think the show works if the show didn't have all the stuff underneath it that you find out about later? Do you think the show still completely works? Because I think the show works, but I think that all that stuff elevates it to almost like historical nature.
I think that, number one, that is a gorgeous question. Truly a thoughtful question. And
thank you.
I think that without it, it would still be popular on some level. I think it probably would have gotten a couple seasons. But no, I don't think it ever would have reached historic levels without this undercurrent, because it really just captured a moment in time that few other shows, maybe no other shows captured the way this show did.
I was looking at the IMDb, like they rank things, you know, or like give it like out of like a 10-star system, and this only got 3.7, which is so bizarre to me.
I mean, I'd like to write a strongly worded letter
to Mr. IMDb.
Sir, Mr. IMDb, you don't know what you speak of.
Yeah, no, it's well, we didn't even bring up the lost dog.
Oh my God, the lost dog. Which, okay, actually, so Tess gets a dog, and she loses it for, it seems like, about 20 minutes.
Yeah, it's like but it's like all of a sudden high drama.
High drama. They're running through Calabasas in their bare feet, slapping on the pavement, screaming for this little like English bulldog or something.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, that dog was pooping on the carpet for several episodes until they lose it and get rid of the dog, which I remember to be like a big...
Well, the dog was probably eating like leftover heroin or something, you know? Like that's not even...
I can't imagine the shit that dog was getting into.
Yeah, the dog literally was like, I will run away. This is crazy.
Get me out. Take me away.
By the way, when I was reading that oral history of this, one of the crew members said they took the dog on purpose.
Oh, well, reality, not so real.
Yeah, crazy.
Ryan, this was so fun.
Oh my God, I thought we had another 3 hours. I was like, okay, let's go into... No, this was amazing. By the way, this is obviously now I have like 30 things because this pocket of time that your podcast highlights, and like, you know, you're just so good at, but also I have such warm feelings for all of this and all of these shows, you know? Absolutely.
I mean, that's why I had to create this podcast. Little mama needed an outlet. Okay.
Oh my God. Wait, real quick before it's the Hoarders. Didn't you always think it was funny that they would get the company that would always organize things, but they would always be like, they've got to be out of here in 8 hours. We got to go. And it was always like a race against time. And it's like, wait a sec, these people have real problems. Why can't we do 2 days? Like they were literally trying to make it more dramatic. So they would only like, sorry, we only have 6 hours here and we've got to go through like 80 years of your life. And you'd be like, wait a sec, why does it have to be rushed? Why do we have to rush this? You know,
that is a theme across so many reality shows where it's like, well, you only have signing a time limit. And I understand like part of it is probably production, but it's like,
well, these are real. That's why it's
real people.
That's why it's a fucked up show, because it's like, wait a sec, this is a sickness. And I know you have a TV show, but like, you're not then doing the best thing for them because you're still you're hoping to get them like freaking out and like, we can't possibly be done. Because that would be the other thing with hoarders, that they would most likely like freak out because they would start wanting to go through every piece of thing, you know, like, no, I need to see that before you throw it out. Like it was like, so it's like literally like ripping appendages off of these people that aren't used to it.
Absolutely. And it's also like, you know, this place is soaked in cat urine and like trauma. Let's like take a few days. It's going to take some time to clear this out. We don't have to, we can take a moment. Let's take a breath.
Like at some point I was like, is somebody from production going to go like, hey, she's obviously going to lose her shit. Let's just do another day. Let's slow down. We got this. You're doing great. You know,
also,
so much progress.
These reality shows are dirt cheap to make.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to someone's house. Like they're not even getting a location. They're just taking a crew and they're cleaning it up over a week. You can take the extra day. Good Lord.
Yeah, it's like, and that's like some of these people in the company, I'd be like, I thought they'd, you know, almost be like, hey, it's not worth it. We'll give them an extra day for free, you know?
I'd like to know how many people were like, it's not worth it. I'm finding a new career. This is, I feel bad.
But it is one of those shows though, that is like now every time I do end up collecting too much or like I'll be like, remember hoarders, Ryan, you don't want to do that ever. Remember hoarders. Like I'll like not collect, but I'll just like keep Old Navy clothes that I don't need, you know? I'm like, come on, man, it's Old Navy. You don't need that. You don't need that. That's 10 years old, you know?
The stuff that I have that is 10 years old that I'm like, you'll fit into that one day. And I'm like, bitch, you won't.
God. Oh, dude. I mean, I think everybody's going through that with quarantine right now because of like, I've outgrown like a size of jean where they just don't look as good, you know? And it's like, we're all having to do that of like, do I save my pre-quarantine clothes or do I accept my new quarantine body, you know?
Yeah. And also just accepting the new quarantine life. Like I was looking at some of my clothes, trying to throw some things out. And I was like, I barely wore this before. And now I haven't left the house in 6 months. Maybe just give it to God.
Well, like that's the other thing too, is that I know probably everybody says this, but like I wouldn't, as things get safer and more precautions are like put into place and stuff, like I wouldn't mind seeing people, but like part of me is like, could we all agree to like wear sweatpants or like wear the shit around like, and like just forgive like looks and stuff like that and don't have to be looking like, couldn't we, like if you want to hang out with me so bad, couldn't we just wear sweatpants and just be chill, you know?
Absolutely. Like, let's accept this time and place. And listen, I haven't touched up these roots in 6 months. And every time I do a FaceTime call, I'm like, listen, this is ombre. This is a 2013 ombre. I shouldn't have to preface my 6 months quarantine roots.
Yeah, I mean, it just like I had to put myself on tape for an audition today, and I went to put on like a button-up shirt, and I was like tight around my belly, and then it just like threw me into like a whole like thing. I was just like, oh, this is so sad. Like, how do I, you know? Because then you're just wanting like the casting director doesn't give a shit, but you're wanting to explain of like, hey, this used to fit me. It's crazy, right? Can I have this part?
Coronavirus. You heard of it?
Yeah. Classic quarantine 15, right?
Classic, man. COVID 15, huh? Ryan, I just realized I didn't even mention your podcast at the top of the show. So can you give a little pitch of your pod?
Pitch. Well, if you like long things, no, I do a long form podcast called So Bad It's Good with Ryan Bailey, and it's a celebration of all the pop culture we love to hate with like a heavy focus on reality shows. So I'll usually have like 2 to 3 guests an episode. I like to think of them as like actual radio shows I grew up on. So it'll have multiple guests, a lot of bits. I'll play a sad song or two. Like there'll be like there's a lot of work and editing that goes into each one. I'm starting to do more recaps of these reality shows, but like I'll get obsessed with something. Like I got obsessed with like Garth Brooks. Like he has a clip of when he joined Facebook for the first time, and it'll be like, well, I guess it's official. We're on Facebook. And it's like one of the most serious things I've ever seen in my life. Cause he's like, I want to post cool stuff, slick stuff, neat stuff. But more often than not, I'm just going to post real stuff because that's who I am. Like it's like the most insane thing. And I'll just go off because I'll be editing all night and something will make me laugh at 3 a.m. And then that's like a 30-minute bit. But anyways, yeah, if you like that stuff, it's in the same world that this show lives in. Mm-hmm. It's just more recent, but
it's the same like, Marvel universe.
Well, yeah, it's like it's all the extended multiverse, Marvelverse. And it's just like I have such an appreciation for this stuff. I was into pop culture from a very, very young age. So nothing is off limits in terms of that. And it's really so exciting to do. And it's just found an audience, which I'm so thankful for. But if you're looking to give it a shot, there's timestamps, so you don't have to listen to the whole thing. It's not necessary. It's always there for you. But yeah, just So Bad It's Good. I'm on Instagram, So Bad It's Good with Ryan Bailey, and I just do a lot of Bravo memes and Kardashian memes and just make fun of celebrities.
You guys, you have to listen. I'm a huge fan of Ryan's, and Well,
you're going to come on in a couple of weeks, so you got to.
Yes.
If you're a fan of this podcast, I don't know when this will come out, but you'll have to then go over to that podcast, and it's a perfect intro if you're scared of other voices. You can have her voice and then my voice, and it'll make you feel calm.
That's a great point. And you have such a great radio voice. You really do.
Thank you. You as well. Like I appreciate that. Well, somebody, what did somebody say? My jerk friend said the other day that her mom thought I sounded like Regis Philbin. And I was like,
oh my God.
Which, by the way, rest in peace, Regis. And I love Regis, but I just never thought of myself as the, but maybe like the cooler Regis,
I think you're the cooler Regis. I mean, I think what she was picking up on was just like a broadcast, broadcast royalty.
And the excitement, I think. The excitement
yes. Factor. You have a gravitas that
gravitas, if you will, yes.
That carries through the airwaves.
Really, the respect he gives to hoarders is amazing.
Truly. Okay, guys. You can check out Ryan on his podcast, on his Instagram. Get those Bravo memes. We love a Bravo meme. I love a Bravo meme. I can't do many memes on my Instagram. I just don't have the memes in me.
It gets stressful.
I can't believe how much work goes into your Instagram. Like that is, God bless you. God bless.
Well, yeah, it is weird. And it's weird when like those things like start taking off, or then you start to build like an audience from there and you're like, this is insane. Like or like I got like an influencer deal the other day and I was like, it was like watch a reality show and post reactions of it. And I was like, for real? I thought I was being punked. I was like, wait, I mean, for real? And I was like, shit, I do this for free. Like, this is crazy. Like, I literally thought it was just a prank,
I mean, that's a dream. That's why you moved to Los Angeles
I know. Well,
to put in a bunch of work.
Cause you're like, I'm a white, straight male dude that there's no part of my story that like, I thought this would be a part of it. But like, at the same time, it does make me feel good. Cause I always wondered why the fuck I was so obsessed with all of these shows and people. And like, I was the only dude, like all my friends, like sports, that I was the only guy getting like Us Weekly every week. And like, really like, just like, oh my God, it's here, it's here. And this, you know, and just like flipping through for like pictures that I hadn't seen before, and constantly online for like celebrity gossip. And I always wondered like, why do I memorize all of this stuff? Why do I know? And now I know it's for like a shitty podcast, you know?
This is what God was preparing you for.
And what if you get to heaven and God is like, that actually was not it at all? Like, you really missed the boat. You also were good at math, and you just totally ignored that, you know?
Actually, I presented Hoarders to you because you would have been a really great therapist, and you totally missed
sitting there
my...
laughing at it. Yeah, nice.
I fucked up, and that's on me. As God, that's on me.
Or if you get to like heaven and God is like, why did you make fun of Jack so much? It's just so hurtful.
No,
he's
Jack's
one of my children.
Taylor, no, he is not one of God's children. He is a sociopath.
No, I hate him with a passion. Obviously, yeah.
We on this podcast, we hate Jax Taylor.
I think that's the smart way to go. Yeah.
I think that's with God. I think.
Go with God, and so it is.
And so it is. All right, you guys. Do you remember this? Subscribe, follow on Instagram. Love you. Bye.
Bye.